What's going on, wrestling fans? Welcome into another edition of Near Falls with D Hall, episode 70 with Rob Waltko. So excited for him to come over and hang out with me. It was a lot of fun. We dove right into his story. We talked a bunch about North Allegheny with Jake Herbert and the Moore brothers and Coach Brinzer and the Angry Fish Club. Kind of cool, man. One of like the OG clubs in the Pittsburgh area, Angry Fish, that is. So we talk about that. We talk about his time at North Allegheny winning a state championship as a senior. We dive into his college years going to Bucknell, the recruiting process. What's that like? You know what I mean? It's so different than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago now. So we talked about that, and we talked about his time at Bucknell. And ultimately, we talked about how he is now at Quest and helping out Coach Jim Akerley and that program. So yeah, man, really cool story. Very good stuff here. So super excited for you guys to come check this out. And I hope you enjoy episode 70, as always, brought to you by Switch Custom Apparel.
Welcome to Near Falls with D. He's talking on bars and how they win it all. Yeah, it's just Near Falls with D. The final takedown, the glory or the fall. So loosen up, step on in, wrestle with the need to win. We're talking Near Falls with D. Ready or not, he's here to brawl.
Okay, so when you came into West Virginia, or came into Western Pennsylvania at 4 or 5 years old. When did you start wrestling?
7.
Okay. So how did that start? Like, was there a flyer? Was there what did that look like?
So my dad wrestled in high school for a few years. He was okay. He's like a heavyweight, decent wrestler, good football player. His team was a state champs in football.
Where is he from?
Warren, Ohio.
Okay.
They had like
Not
6
far.
professional athletes on his high school team, like 2
Yeah.
professional football, 2 baseball, 2 basketball. So kind of a powerhouse high school. I remember a flyer. I don't know if I got it from school or if he like ripped it off a wall, but we're sitting on the couch at the house we lived in at the time. We were renting, and he said, "Do you want to wrestle?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It sounds awesome." Thinking it's like the WWF. He explains it, and he's like, "You got to wear tights." Didn't say singlet, he said tights. And he's like, "It's really tough."
Now, when you were thinking tights, like, what was your first thought?
Well, he told me how tough it was, and he told me that. So I remember thinking, like, I don't want to, like, wuss out. Because he said it's, like, tough. So I was like, yeah, I'll try it. Even though I didn't want to really wear a singlet. And that was it. Jumped into it and, started when I was 7 years old in North Allegheny's youth program.
All right. So, North Allegheny youth program. When you were when you were growing up, was it as big as it is now? Like, you go to these junior high tournaments. I coached junior high for a couple years. You have NA Black, NA Gold. It was a huge, huge, huge school. Was it like that when you were a kid?
So they've lost a lot of participation in the junior high level. Now, I think that's countrywide in every sport. Specialization. Yeah. Kids don't play 3 sports anymore. But when I was a kid, we had 2 junior high teams. We had Black and Gold.
Right.
Most years, it was Gold was a good team, Black was the second team.
Yeah.
And then they tried splitting it where they wanted each team to be equal for a time period. But when I was a kid, it was Gold and then Black. You'd wrestle off, but it was great, right? Even if you're second team, you're still getting a full season of matches, which I don't think a lot of kids really got that opportunity.
No, for sure. So when you were going through that, we talked a little bit as we were getting into like the podcast tonight. There's so much history. Like, were you an Angry Fish kid?
Yeah, that started when I was either 11 or 12. There's a picture floating around from one of the first practices.
Yeah.
Myself and my brother in that, but that was my club. We bounced around a little bit before that, and even during that, like we'd go to All American. I went there for a while. I got older, we'd pop into Quest. We'd actually come down here to Cobras. Scott Hutton ran that.
Yeah.
So we bounced around, but once Angry Fish really got rolling, that was our home base and where we spent pretty much our whole time.
Let's talk about Coach Brinzer.
He's a brilliant mind. He's him and Ty were kind of like yin and yang. Like,
yeah.
Ray was like the had the free spirit, right? He'd be late to practice. He's maybe not the guy who won't get in the hotel reservations, but really good technician. Just really brilliant. And then Ty was a great technician too, but he's definitely more the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
He's more type A, right? Like if we're going on a trip and we're taking vans, he's like, everyone here at 7 o'clock, no excuses. Like Ray wasn't really putting that stuff together. But no, Ray was great. He actually coached the junior high at one point too. My brother was junior high wrestler at that point and really liked him. And just, he's a goofy guy, but he's really, really bright.
Marky B, you have a Brinzer story, don't you, buddy?
Yeah, and he came up and coached the Lockhaven camp, Matt Town, when I was a freshman there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very good, so decent sized body. Ray looked at me during Greco practice that day and said, "Hey, I need a body." He proceeded to throw me around for 2 hours. I was never a freestyle or Greco kid. I played football all summer. I didn't know. I didn't know what I was getting into, and so I didn't know how to get thrown. I love Ray Brinzer. He's a guy that, like you said, a beautiful mind in terms of wrestling. Very much look up to that guy.
He would just have these funny like motivational tactics and ideas. Like we'd be doing buddy carries up the steps, and he'd like pretend like he was like escaped from a mental institution. He'd be like screaming, running up the steps, like chasing you, like trying to like scare you into running faster. Or he had this thing where like he would always like he never would get a hotel room, so he'd always sleep on someone's floor or sleep on the couch. But he's like, don't shake me to wake me up, because I might like attack you. Like I have a reflex. He'd have to like throw shoes out on me and wake up and be like, ah! Like, be, like throwing punches or like throwing like a judo throw or something. So
That's awesome.
he's quirky, man. But he helped me a lot, and I'm really thankful for everything he did for me.
That's awesome. All right, man. Getting into your career a little bit. Obviously, I'm having you on. You had some level of success along the way. You won a state championship. We're going to get into all that. You talk about your young career. When did it click? Like you're like, all right, this is something like I'm decent at.
I was so back then they didn't have like youth states for 8-year-olds, which I think is a good idea. I don't think we need to be wrestling high level tournaments for 8-year-olds personally, but they did it whenever you're 10. And I did make states when I was 10. Actually, do you guys know the Casalises from John?
Yeah, absolutely.
His friend, I bump into him, but he upset me at areas, and then he lost, so I didn't get to challenge back. So I didn't make it when I was 10.
Oh, that was like the true second deal.
Yeah, but he took second. The other guy was better. But,
Right.
I was like pretty good. Like I was like on like the teeter, right? Like I was gonna be good. I was not super mature. We didn't cut any weight, so I was always like in between weights. So I was like from like 9 to 13 or so. I was okay. Like I placed at tournament champions and Wawas and started placing at the state tournament. But I won a state title 8th grade. It was still 14 and under, so I beat a pretty good freshman. I think that's whenever it started like really clicking, and I started realizing, okay, I could be pretty good at this, and started having some success nationally as well.
So when you won that state title at 14 as an 8th grader, I mean that's still like a big thing. Like I've talked to some guys, like even when you're a junior, because especially when you're at that oldest age, you got the AA kids and the AAA kids in your bracket when you're winning that title. I mean, it's still that's something to be said. What do you attribute that to? Like, who were your training partners at that time? What What did that look like?
So at that point, I think when I was 12, I quit playing baseball and started wrestling freestyle.
Gotcha.
Wrestling all year round. So this kid named Dan Mahoney from Baldwin.
Okay.
I banged with him a good bit. The Nelsons, I was bigger than them, but they were really good. So it was competitive. Like Eric Fulmer. I'd go to Waller's and wrestle Brian Letters.
So you traveled all around, is what you're telling me.
Well, so my 8th grade year is actually interesting. I repeated because I was really young. My dad started looking around. He's like, everyone that's like your age is the grade below. Like he's thinking like, you want to be competitive? Let's repeat. I couldn't do it at North Allegheny because my grades were too high. They're like, no, we're not going to approve this. So I had to go to Catholic school. So it's kind of a cool year because I'd bounce around. Like I'd go to Angry Fish practice twice a week. Then I'd go to Waller. So it's like I was kind of like.
So that
like my own
technically
schedule.
your like 9th grade year.
No, I repeated 8th grade.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
But I was traveling all these different places to practice. So it's like I got some independence, right? Where it's like, all right, I'm run the show. Hey, Dad, let's go here this day. Let's go there that day. I think I started to figure some things out.
So when you were traveling all around, I had a conversation with Mac about this, and before we get into the next topic, I want to touch on this. Especially now, you got Quest gear on. We've talked about Quest a little bit. We're going to get into it more. But there's marking, we all talked about this. There's, 20, maybe 15, 20 clubs in the greater Pittsburgh area, into, out where M2's at. What's your take on all that? Like, I love that, the sport's growing enough that we have enough clubs that support that many kids, but I don't know. I find it interesting.
Yeah, I wish more guys that were running clubs would give back to their youth local programs. I did that for a long time, and I'm not above it. I would do it again, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of clubs are, I don't know, guys are maybe trying to make money, or they're like, everyone's real competitive, right? They want to get their name, or their name, but like, as long as you're coaching wrestling, it's great, but I also think that like maybe it's a little oversaturated.
Yeah.
And maybe less is more in some ways.
Yeah.
It's my personal opinion. I don't want to crap on anyone for trying to help kids, but
yeah, there's no right or wrong answer to it. I just want to hear your opinion. I think it's just interesting to find, like, Quest has been around forever. Pit Bulls was around forever. Now they're not so much, but All American, obviously, that building, and the Flow guys were around there forever.
Yeah.
I just find it interesting, especially. I feel like you could look at across the country. Pittsburgh, especially, kind of originated the club scene.
Yeah, I mean, Waller was one of the first. There's
Right.
The Edge out in New Jersey. Sean Bourmet, Michigan's head coach, he started Overtime in Illinois. Like, I think the history,
Yeah.
a lot of it starts there. Like, Angry Fish popped up as one of the first ones that kind of
Boom.
super clubs. And what I don't like about it is it seems like everyone's like fighting over the kids, and it's like, where's the kid actually train? Who's actually his coach? Like, you get this guy that he goes there once a month, and some guy jumps in the corner and wants him to wear his t-shirt, and it's like, are you really trying to help this kid, or are you trying to build your own brand? I think there's a lot of that going on personally.
Yeah.
Again, as long as people are trying to help, that's great, but I also think that we need a middle class in the sport where there's good, qualified guys coaching their youth teams.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Because I think there's a big separation with specialization, where it's really good kids that do it because they're not good at anything else. Like, those kids in the middle kind of get lost.
I agree, and I've had that conversation with the middle class. The middle class is kind of lost in the sport. Definitely interesting, and it's a common thing I've been hearing. Make a note of that for sure. All right, moving back into your career, we got into your 8th grade year. We got into your 9th grade or second 8th grade year. At that time, Jake Herbert was like the man, right? Yeah. He was a junior, senior around that time?
He was a senior my second 8th grade year, so we never wrestled on the same team.
What was it like just watching him? I'm sure you weren't, like you said, you weren't on the same team, but watching him go through his process, watching him go through his matches, watching him go through his, like, what was it like being around him?
It was great. I mean, he's a great role model, and what was great about him was he was always good growing up, but like when he was a sophomore, he got pinned by Taylor Letters, kid from Shaler, right? Yeah. So it's not like he was Spencer Lee, whereas he was winning everything every year. Right. You just kept seeing him get better, and he'd go to a dual tournament and get tacked, and then beat the guy the next week. Just like really fearless attitude, and always wanted to get better, and like always had a good was always in a good mood. I think he's a great guy to be around.
Yeah. So next question I have for you. The history of North Allegheny, we touched on a little bit right there with Jake Herbert. And, you got the Moore brothers. Back in the early 90s, it was like one of the best teams in the country. I talked to Coach Johnson about that, right, Marky? Like the Moore brothers, like that team was ridiculous. I don't know what year it was, in 92, 93.
90
something.
Was their best year.
90,
yeah,
right?
89, 90.
So the history there, you see those names in the rafters. Like, what was it like kind of when you got into high school? Did you feel like you had to live up to something already winning the state championship in juniors?
Yeah, and what was cool was a lot of the guys were around. Like, my coach, Kiriatsis, was on that team.
Yep.
His story, he didn't start wrestling, I think, until 8th or 9th grade. Was third in the Whippeals, or second in the Whippeals, a senior, never made states before, never placed, rather, and then runs through it and wins. And Rich Catalino, state champ, he's around. Ray Ty. Dude, Ken Bauer, he's floating around.
Coach
his mom was our Spanish teacher.
His mom was our
growing up,
Spanish
yeah.
teacher.
Oh,
she used to talk about that all the time.
She used to love up the wrestlers, man. We got special treatment back in the
all
day.
the time.
But only in Spanish class because it's wrestling and we're
Yeah.
not football players, we're wrestlers.
Yeah, he's
So
a cool
funny.
dude. Yeah,
He's the man.
he was around. He's still around. He's helping with junior high and varsity. Pops in when he can. He
Great
still
guy.
wrestles, man. He graduated '89 high school, so he's in his early 50s. Like
still rolling around.
he's real jiu-jitsu. Yeah, he's a beast. I mean, he'll still beat someone's ass. Like he's good.
So, like, was it wild to, like, I mean, that's unbelievable to know that already went through the program as you're getting ready to step on the mat as a, high school wrestler.
I think you get accustomed to it. It's just like,
Right.
Like if you're a kid wrestling at Penn State and you're a freshman, like you just get used to Zane Rutherford, world champ, Kyle Dake, world champ, Jason Nolf. Oh, he can't make a world team. Like, it's like that's how good it is around there. It's David Taylor, world and Olympic champ. I think you surround yourself with that, and you just think it's normal. It's just all right. That's what you do.
Right.
Go out and beat guys.
So, you won a cadet title. What was that like? Obviously, Angry Fish probably had a big part of that. Ray Brenzer, like those guys, were they pushing you along?
Yeah, it was. No, I wrestled really well that weekend. There's probably 3 or 4 guys that could have won it on the right day, and I had the right weekend, right? I won a couple tight ones, and the way the pools were set up, my pool was loaded. I got in the finals and beat a guy pretty bad. Ray actually missed my biggest match, day 3. He slept in. Like we talk about him being like a little spacey, but his explanation was so funny. I was like, I thought you went home because maybe someone like passed away or someone was sick, and you had to. And he's like, well, if someone died, I wouldn't go home because I couldn't help them. He's like, I just slept in. And I was like, all right, man, that's it. And then later that day, Curtis Branch, one of my good friends, he was wrestling. I think it was in the blood round. There's a kid from New Mexico, and Kurt Brenner was wrestling a kid from Oregon. He was the number 1 kid in the country. And
Kurt Brenner. Yeah.
Kurt Branch was like, hey, can you coach me? He goes, New Mexico or number 1 in the country? I got to go with number 1. And Kurt lost. This kid was actually really tough.
Yeah.
No, his perspective on things were definitely funny.
Oh man, you bring up another Freedom Boy. I love anyone who brings up a Freedom Boy. That's like
He was a good dude, man. Kurt was a guy
Yeah.
a couple years older than me, but he's always real cool to the younger kids. Like, he's just a good guy to have in the club.
So he wrestled. So my cousin, I lived with my cousin for a couple years. He graduated a couple years behind. You good, Shiloh? There you go, girl.
Yeah.
He graduated a couple years behind Kurt. But he told me that he was a better Greco guy than anything.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know for certain. I mean, he was good at all styles.
Yeah.
I think he was pretty competitive, but he was tough.
I love that. I love Freedom Boys. Good stuff. All right, so back into your career. We talked about just how tough the whip-yo is, and you only made it twice out of there. Pinned Ronnie once. Ronnie Newroy. Shout out Ronnie. Love you, buddy.
Ronnie.
Sorry, happens.
Got
Everyone.
me too, dude. It's fine.
Happens to everyone. Probably would have pinned me. But what was it like wrestling in the whip-yo? It's tough, man. It's no joke.
Yeah, I talk about like the middle class.
Yeah.
Like back then, it's like the 7 seed could beat the 1 or the 2 seeds. Like,
Yeah.
now it's like there's a lot more separation because like there's the specialization and the top kids are so good. But it was tough, man. And I also think part of it was like I was one of these guys that like I knew every result. And, like you start psyching yourself out and giving kids credit. And, I maybe wrestled a little bit tight my last couple of years of high school, but the kids were also good. I had in my whip-yo bracket like 2 or 3 guys that placed at the Beast of the East, plus me, plus Brown. You know what I mean?
Right,
It was good guys, man, to do well on a national stage.
I mean, you eventually figured it out, though, buddy. Junior year, you went 38-3. Pretty remarkable. You pinned a bunch of dudes, Jake Leninsky, in the process. How did you go from a state finalist to not making it?
I mean, a lot of it I think was just like managing anxiety, but also was wrestling good kids. I wrestled quarterfinals. I wrestled AJ Brensel.
Yeah.
He was the coach at Penn Trafford. he had never beaten me my whole life, but it was always close. So it was like in the back of my head, I'm like, he's gonna get me one of these times. He beats me in a ride out. That's the 8th seed in the whip heel. He ended up 3rd in the state, and then we wrestled in the state finals the next year. So he was.
It's not the 8th seed in the
Well,
whip heel.
you had Clint Podish after that.
Yeah.
And then Lance Bryson. I don't know if anyone remember. I remember Lance.
Yeah.
But, I mean, those were some tough matches even before you got to
Podish,
Nathan Buren.
he placed. He was a Powerade place winner, and we wrestled in the round of 8. You know what I mean?
Whip heel is so ridiculous.
The
I
frequency we were
preach
going
it to
on.
people.
Podish
They
was
don't
a monster.
understand. Like, the whip heel is ridiculous how deep it is. It's you can go 8 deep in some weight classes, and 8 can beat the one guy in some weight classes. It's just ridiculous.
You look at some kids, it's like they'll go place at like NHSA sophomore.
Yeah.
They're not even close to making out a whip heel. It's
Yeah.
like some kid from Philly gets a good draw, gets in the semis in the state tournament. And, I was like, oh, he's 5th in the state. It's like, yeah, but he wouldn't even. There's certain kids, I'm not going to name any of them, but
Right.
they're 3-4-time regional champs. It's like they might not even be in top 3 here, top 4. Right? Because they're losing to the 4th place kids out there.
Yeah.
But the depth is tough. And
It might not even be top 6.
yeah.
We had some
Seriously.
brackets some years. There's
Seriously.
like, you got 7, 8 guys in there that any one of those guys could go place at the state tournament.
You're right. Yeah, definitely any of them. Like, you go. Like you
It
said,
goes deep.
Yeah, you have kids place at the Powerade and not make it to the state tournament.
So you talk about, like, figuring out the anxiety. Figured it out the following year.
No, I mean, maybe a little. I always battled it. Even that year, I was 3rd at the Eastern areas. I lost to Eric Williams from Trinity, and then I make the finals of the Ironman. It's like I was very up and down. I was 3rd in the whip heel, then I won the state title. But the state tournament, I felt pretty good for whatever reason. I was just able to kind of control my nerves and wrestled well. And
So how'd you control your nerves? Like, I talked to Mackenzie McGuire about this a couple weeks ago. I talked to a bunch of different dudes about this. Like, walking out in that parade of champions at the Giant Center. Like, it's a big deal. Like, how'd you calm yourself?
my coaches did a good job of loosening me up. But part of it was the kids I was wrestling. I happened to see them, and they looked like a nervous mess. And I'm like, all right, well, they're about to crap a brick.
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah.
I remember seeing their shoulders up to their ears, and you're like, all right, this guy's he's scared to death.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It gave me confidence. I distinctly remember that and just feeling good about it. So stupid as it is, it worked.
Love that. Yeah. All right, so walk me through kind of that state tournament. You get to the championship. Walk me through actually getting the job done. That had to have been a sense of relief. We talked about earlier. The Jake Herberts, the Moore brothers. That you're in there with those guys winning the state championship. What was that like?
It felt good. I mean, it was something that I was really close. I was in the finals as a sophomore. Junior year, the bracket was mine. I just didn't go out there and take it. And senior year, I had a really good tournament and was able to get the job done. It felt good. It was a good feeling, and kind of a weight lifted off my shoulders.
What was the first thing that came through your head after that? The final whistle blew, and you knew you were the state champion that year. You finally reached the pinnacle of the state.
I just think I was relieved. Honestly.
Relieved?
Yeah, it was like, all right,
That's a lot of pressure.
did it. Now I can
Yeah.
go on that wall, and it's always going to be there.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. I mean, you're on the wall with Jake Herbert, with the Moore brothers, with
Legend.
Yeah, NCAA champs.
legends. Yeah, legends. And
Not on their level, but it's always cool to see that. And
walk into that room.
You were?
or kids you coach, they come,
You were,
and,
dude.
they might. I don't tell every kid my resume. They walk in, oh, Coach Rob's up there.
Yeah,
That's always
yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
cool thing to see.
Love that. All right, switching over. Bucknell, when did that decision? No.
Tell us a little bit about Coach Jamie. We talk about
Yeah,
Jamie?
you're right.
Yeah, Jamie. I love Jamie, man.
Of course.
He,
he's been on the preview show. I mean, I like Coach Jamie a lot.
People don't realize how good he was. He was seeded at the NCAA tournament, top 10.
Yeah.
He has a win over John Hughes. He was that guy
I didn't know
that
that.
on
That's
the right
pretty
on the
wild.
right day could have been 4th in the country. On the wrong day, he's
Right, yeah.
16th. He's right in that mix. He would work out this a lot. He's in great shape. He'd run the leg. I mean, he'd wrestle with us, and it'd be close because he'd let it be close. But he was tough, and
Good coach. Lets it be
Yeah,
close. Lets you think you're in it.
yeah, and he's just very. He has values. He sticks to them, and I was kind of a disorderly kid sometimes, and there wasn't a lot of preferential treatment. So I was treated like everyone else, and I needed a kick in the butt for being a smart aleck or whatever you want to call it. Like, he wasn't scared to do it. So got a lot of respect for him. I think he's a great coach.
Love that. Yeah, Coach Kiriazis. I struggle with that name. Sorry, Coach Jamie. But yeah, I enjoy talking to him every time. He always has like good wisdom whenever, and he's back running the helmet in NA. So.
No, they got good coaches there. They got a guy named Dwayne Nashaka.
Okay.
He's a Shaler guy. He's really good. He knows a lot about wrestling. People don't always realize it. Like, he's the head custodian in NA. Like, wears big clothes. Like,
okay.
He's not really boisterous, but like, he knows what he's doing. I think, kids need to buy into that. Eric Cassidy, NA guy, wrestled at Pitt. He's a beast. And then a dude named Dustin Layton. He was a Seneca Valley guy. I don't know him very well, but everyone speaks really highly of him. I think they got a good staff, and they're heading in the right direction.
Talk about, like, real quick before we move on, like, you talk about they're heading in the right direction. You like where they're at. I mean, especially now more than ever, it is so hard to build a program, and like, you have to have good coaches at every level, the youth level, the middle school level, and the high school level. NA just seems to do it every single year. They have good kids every single year. Is that the numbers? Is that the coaching? What do you think that is?
It's a combination. I mean, you have, like, I don't know the junior high as well. It's just like, junior high is kind of a weird.
It's tough.
Yeah,
that's the biggest. I tell everyone, if you get your kids from youth to high school, that junior high year is so pivotal.
Right.
To get those kids through.
The youth program is great. I coached there for a long time.
Right.
I'm coaching with Quest now. I actually run Quest out of NA's room a couple days a week, but they have a lot of really involved parents. The guy that runs it, Rob Truesdale, is like, he's all in. He's a real smart dude, wrestled at EPJ, and he's just like, he's fully committed. Some of the really good kids are football players, so that helps because they can pull other football players in.
Yeah.
But they got a good thing going. It's just, got to keep everyone on the same page.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Bucknell, how'd you end up there?
Back then you couldn't visit till your senior year, so like basically your whole fall senior you would visit schools. I visited Kent State. I was set to visit a few other schools, and went to Bucknell. I really liked it. They made a good offer. It was a really good academic school. Mm-hmm. My dad was like, "This is a no-brainer." It was kind of unique because they had a program that got dropped, and then they had the kids above me were the first year, so I was the second recruiting class coming in. So it was like kind of cool to be part of something that fresh and that unique. So I went there, and that's where I spent 4 years.
Yeah, for sure. When you were going through that process, and I talked to like some of these guys. I was like right on the cusp of it, but you more than ever didn't have like the internet to kind of go through and have these guys, like these dudes have Twitter, all these coaches talk to these guys. You're part of the recruiting process helping guide the kids to the right programs. How different is it now from when you were?
So back then it was after July 15th or June 15th, whatever it was. I think it was June 15th. They could call you once a week, and the smart kids figure out they could text you whenever they want. Or they could text you and say, "Hey, call me."
Right.
So you could call them as much as you want, but they could only... So, like...
so there was ways around it back in the day.
And then it was, they can't text. So when I was in college, I'd reach out to kids and say, "Hey, Bucknell's interested in you, call this coach." I could reach out to the coach, right? So everyone's always figuring out ways to get around the rules.
Right, of course.
But now it's much more involved where they can call a year earlier. I think it's too quick. I just think it's a lot of pressure for these kids. Like, you start that summer, you got 5-6 months to figure it out. That's enough time, right? You can do unofficials before then if you want. But it's a 2-year process for these kids. And every time you got to post your picture and your singlet on Instagram. And it's stressful. I think everyone really likes it for a couple weeks, then it becomes really, really tiresome.
It just seems like they're posting to see, question mark. They post their picture in the singlet of different schools, and
but they tell. I mean, it started with football. You're supposed to do that. So if you know that Penn State offered you, or if I post that Penn State offered me, then Ohio State might offer me next. Right? It's all to get the other coaches. It's just, I don't know. I feel bad for the coaches too because they're spending so much more time recruiting now.
Right.
Like they're not even spending that much time developing their athletes. They're getting on the road to get the next group of guys, and it's a lot of time on the road. These guys have families. Like
Yeah.
you're on the road 8 months a year trying to recruit. That's a lot.
Yeah. There's no joke. I mean, that's definitely a different world.
The challenge of being a college coach nowadays, man.
But to answer your
Worry
question
about NIL and shit too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
like guiding kids, if a kid asks me a question, I'll give them an honest answer. But
Yeah.
I stay out of it. I don't.
Yeah.
It's you don't know the kids. Every kid's different. Their priorities are different. You might tell them this is a good fit for you, but maybe they like this program they have here, or they want to be closer to home or further. So
Right.
I don't get too involved unless a kid really asks me.
For sure. So, Bucknell, you spent 4 years there. Talk about your time there. You had a pretty good career. Not as good as high school, obviously, but you spent 4 years there, like you said.
Yeah, I was middle of the road.
Yeah.
I didn't really I didn't take it as serious as I should have.
D1's no joke.
Yeah, I didn't treat it like I didn't act like a D1 athlete. You know,
Right.
like I wasn't getting the right sleep, nutrition. I'd go to practice. I wouldn't try to win practice. I try to survive practice. It was all these little things compounded that, like, I basically got what I deserved. I was a 500 wrestler, middle of the road in my conference.
Did I see you wrestle heavyweight your sophomore year?
For a dual meet.
That's absurd.
Yeah,
Was he not a big guy, hopefully, or did you?
He actually wasn't very good. I should have won, but I knew just not to get pinned to win the duel.
Yeah, but you were 184,
this
man.
kid
That's
sucked.
like
Yeah, he was terrible. I should have beat him, but no, I was in 97. I weighed in at 97. They bumped me up for the duel.
all right.
But yeah, I don't know. I just wasn't super committed when I look at the kids like with Kevin LaValle, All-American twice, Andy Rendon.
Yeah.
It's like what they were doing versus what I was doing. Different ball. They got what they deserved. I got what I deserved.
Right.
Do you take anything that you learned from your experience at Bucknell? How do you when you're coaching guys now? I mean, I'm sure you got guys coming back to you from college that are asking you hey man, I don't know how I feel about this. Do you lean on your experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or how does that affect you?
So I had my first couple of years, like maybe didn't have the best relationship with my coaches, and I let certain things they did or said like it really affect me and like basically turn me sour. And it's just a lot of wasted energy if you're gonna sit there and be a baby about it. Like either transfer or get over it. It's just like you have a short memory and like you don't like something, either fix it or get out. And that's these guys. They got a tough job, man. They're managing a bunch of 19, 20-year-old kids. Every kid they recruit tells them, I want to be the best, I want to be the best. Then you find out some kids out at a party, like, I'd be pissed too, right? And
Right,
it's just, I just didn't have the best attitude. I kind of, woe is me a little bit than I should have. So I coach kids, like, hey, man, you just got to get over it, or something tough happens, like, bounce back. That's the best
They
way to
look
do it.
up to you. They see you up on the wall. Coach Rob's up there,
Yeah,
right?
Coach
So,
Rob's up on the wall, right?
Yeah, they got that Bucknell hat in the Quest room, right?
No, well, I was kind of like a pseudo Quest guy.
Well,
but
Jim,
I'm not there.
time to put the shingle up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that's the big thing. It's just
Yeah.
have good attitude. You only get 4 or 5 years out of it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
no
Make
use
the
being
most.
being a baby.
Yeah. No doubt. All right, so you talk about going back into the Quest years or coming back into Quest. How did you kind of get connected up with Jim to start coaching these guys?
So I was coaching at North Allegheny for a long time. Their youth, which is great, right? Coaching youth wrestling, a lot of support from the boosters, a lot of kids. At some point though, like you start losing some of your better guys, right? Like they get to a certain level and like they don't get scored on the room, they got to start going to clubs, and you're kind of like, man, I wish I was working with guys a little bit
Yeah.
higher level. Not that I dislike the other part of it, but you want to be around that. And there was just some friction there with some of the old coaches, and I was like, I'm just going to take some time off. And I think Jim probably talked to some of the dads that I'm friends with or kids I coach that went to Quest, like, hey, Rob's like, not coaching anywhere right now. And Jim gave me a call, and I started helping out when he was up in Wexford. And,
Yeah.
that shut down. I'm like, I'll start going to Cannesburg. I lived in Munhall at the time. It's the same commute.
Yeah.
But I've known Jim since I've been a kid. Like I'd pop in there for practices. I wrestled on a couple teams. When I started coaching, I'd see him play. We get along really well, right? So he's like, "Hey man, you want to give me a hand?" And that's right whenever I think Mason had just moved, and Ty was taking some time off, so the timing just worked out really well.
That's wild. So you are like kind of like a pseudo Quest guy. You're not like a born and bred.
No, as a
Quest
kid,
guy.
no, I was an Angry Fish. And,
That's wild. So what do you take? I mean, you got the Quest gear on. What do you take from Jim and the Quest? Like, what do you appreciate from the years and the history that they have?
I always, like, I'd pop in there. Like, he'd run an open room on Sundays.
Okay. Yeah, Troy talks about that all the time.
Yeah, so first, Angry Fish did it. And
Yeah.
they just kind of got disorganized and,
Yeah.
you know, kind of fell apart. And then Jim started doing
Never
it.
heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wrestling club.
It's just like the best guys would come work out, right?
Right, yeah.
And, I had friends on like the Nelsons and Letters, so like if they needed a guy for a tournament, I might jump on there. My brother would do some privates with Jim. So like I was always kind of the pseudo Quest guy. And, like I got along with Jim really well.
Yeah.
I worked out with him once. For after I won Fargo, I went down and worked out with, you know, Powell from Kennemac.
Yeah.
His older brother wrestled at Duquesne. He wanted to work out. So Grant Lowther, I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
His dad called my dad and was like, "Hey, I got this college kid." I was like, "All right, I'll come wrestle." And did okay with him. And then Jim's like, "You want to wrestle?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll wrestle this old man." And
Right.
he takes me down and just beats the shit out of me. Like he was on top of me for a half hour, literally. I tapped him after like 10 minutes. I'm like, "All right, let me up." He just grabbed my fingers.
So
like,
no, get out.
beating you down.
and
He said,
I was like
"No,
trying
get
to.
out."
I was like, "Just kill me." Like, Jesus, just kill me. I was like, I don't want to feel this anymore. But like I always got along with him real well, and like I said, then he hit me up. He was running at Wexford, so
Right.
a lot of NA kids were going, and a lot of them were asking me like, "Hey, what do you think?" I'm like, "Dude, go there, get some,
Right.
just get my practice, go do some work with this dude." But he's very principled. You know, like I said about Jamie, like, you know, he sticks to his guns, and I think that the guns those guys hold are the right ones, and they don't compromise their ethics for anything, which I think is really important. Jim's tough. Like, he's really tough. He's actually gotten a lot easier on the kids, but he just sees things, like, he'll say something, I'm like, I don't know. Then 4 months later, it's like, all right, he was right about that or that or that. I don't want to give specifics, but it's like,
Yeah.
like, this dude's been doing it a long time. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, for sure. One more. Like, what's it like watching him command the room? I find that interesting because I know when I was younger and I dropped my brother off, and now he's kind of got a different. Mac talks about the softer side. You
He ain't
see
that
that,
soft, but
right?
Yeah, it's still. I mean, the kids
Yeah,
know. So like the kids will come out, they'll be like, "Hey coach, can I go to the bathroom?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. Just gonna make sure it's cool with Jim." They put their head down, like, yeah, they want a favor. They come to me, and I'm like, "Go ask Coach Jim."
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
gonna do it. But no, he's in control, and like, you know, when you got 40, 50 kids, especially when you're by yourself, like, it can get off the rails really fast. So
Yeah, for sure.
you have to be a disciplinarian.
Love that. All right, a couple more questions before we get into the last segment of the show. Man, it's not just you in the Waltko family. Your brother. I grew up watching your brother wrestle. Your brother was a dog, Joe.
It was tough.
Very tough. I remember watching him. I don't know what happened. You probably could tell the story, but I remember him having a mask on, and I don't know if he broke something in his face or whatever, but he beat people up.
I think it was his junior year. He might have broke his nose.
Yeah, and he wrestled whip heels with a mask on.
Yeah, I think
I'm like, this dude is a menace, and he was mashing people with a mask on.
I don't remember. Like, I was in college then, but I remember him wearing it. But I don't know if he wore
Joe,
it.
hit me up. Like, I would love to know the story.
Yeah,
Seriously.
I get back to you on that. But
Yeah.
All right, so Rob, I also remember your senior year. Remember you guys used to both wear the headbands all the time?
yeah,
I remember he was losing a match, and he ended up losing. And I remember you specifically freaking out. Does he even know how to sprawl? Is what you said. It sticks in my.
I think it was
mind
Gary
forever.
Attia from Whitehall at the state tournament. He got dumped like.
It was at Whip Deals. No, it was at Whip Deals. Maybe Sammy
Sherlock. It's
Sherlock.
probably Sherlock.
Had to have
Oh,
been
Sam Sherlock, yeah.
Yeah, they went
That
back.
was
and
like a
forth.
legendary. Those two going back and forth.
Yeah, they used to go back and forth a lot.
I used to love watching
And
him.
what a great big brother though. Like, oh man,
I was
so
tough.
mad.
I was really tough on him. It was
Yeah.
it was actually that hurt me because I get so emotionally invested.
That's
It would drain
what it
me.
looked like.
Yeah, it was hard to deal with, but it's
Think he's thankful for you that you're so tough on him?
maybe a
Looking back
little.
on
It was probably a little bit too much at times. Like,
You're a
could
big
be
brother,
I could be a
man.
tough
You
guy
were
to
doing
live
your
with,
best.
Yeah, but no, I think I toughened him up, but it also, Jamie would grab me and be like, "Hey, you just gotta back off, let him deal with it," you know. Like,
It's tough. I mean,
It's awesome.
you want to see your brother do the best that he could possibly do. But I definitely had to ask you. I mean, I got a little brother. And
Yeah.
especially watching you, or not you specifically, but your little brother just being like, specifically the mask. Like, this dude's mashing people. He's a freaking menace with his mask. Can't even see out,
He was a
peripherals or-
dog.
Yeah.
He
was tough. He was really tough.
Allegheny County's just, and that was like,
back in the day.
when we wrestled Allegheny Counties, you'll attest to it, like, Shady Side Academy was in there, Central Catholic was in there, or at least when I was in
weights
there,
too.
both
It
of-
was like
you know what I mean?
It was him, Sherlock, Zumo, Dane.
Yeah,
Johnson,
Zumo's tough.
Anthony Zanetta all bouncing
Yes.
around. So like
It was harder than the Whitfield tournament.
yeah, those were loaded.
That's ridiculous, team. Right there.
Yeah, I mean those were. I mean, one of those each year you wrestled one of those
Right.
guys, at least one, maybe two.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, freak. All right. Next couple questions I have, or next question I have for you. PA Power. One of my favorite things that, like, when I was so excited to get you on, like, when I wanted to do my podcast, I listened to you, Joe Youngblood. Was it one of the Warner brothers?
Yeah, Tristan.
You guys did the college podcast. What was it? I mean, you're familiar with the podcast. Newsflash, we've had some technical difficulties tonight on D Hall. No surprise there. But what was it like being like a part of that? And you were before even podcasts. Like, podcasts are huge now, right? Like, they're everything. But you were before that.
So Jeff, obviously, Jeff's a real smart guy. He's always thinking ahead. I mean, he's been
Right.
in the front of everything PA media wise,
For sure.
right? So he had it going with Tristan and Mason.
Right.
I don't know what the issue was, why they quit for a year. Just like work, you get busy with stuff.
It's tough.
So the next year was me and Joe Youngblood, and I think Mason was going to help, but just the schedule didn't work out. And then the next year after that, I think Joe maybe was doing Joe does a lot of media out in Southeast PA.
Right.
So like he'd travel and do like match of the week, Quakertown versus Penridge, stuff like that.
Right.
So finding time wasn't easy. So then Tristan and I did it. It was fun. It was cool talking to like a lot of college kids, a lot of college wrestlers or college coaches rather. It's just a lot of work, and like I'm coaching 2 nights a week, and then a third night is dedicated to wrestling, and then Saturday I'm coaching all day. Like it's just like I have a wife, I got a kid. Now.
Yes.
Like, it was just a lot, right?
Yeah,
it was either
I get that.
Yeah, just coaching was more important to me than doing the podcast, really.
Yeah, man, I hear you. But no, I had to bring that up because that was definitely like I listened to every single one. I listened to all the Masons. So when I first started doing this podcast, you were one of the targets. So getting you nailed down is definitely exciting. All right, going into the rapid fire segment of the show.
Okay.
We'll just go down the list of questions and give me your first name, thought, whatever comes to your mind, and kind of go from there. Favorite non-wrestling sport?
Football, by far.
Okay.
Love football.
Fantasy guy?
Big fantasy.
Oh.
Big FanDuel, big DraftKings.
How's the fantasy squad this year?
Yeah,
How
how's the
they
fantasy
look
squad
and how
look
they
this year?
doing?
Not good.
We're 2 weeks in.
Yeah, not good. I got Cooper Kupp on 2 of my teams.
Oh,
One was an early draft, so it was before he got
It's
hurt.
tough. Yeah.
I have Dobbins on the same team.
Double whammy.
Yeah, it's been rough so far.
that was a great value pick
But
this year.
was.
Would have been.
Yeah, not great so far. It's early. I mean, people get dinged up, so we'll see what happens. But
I hear you.
Sometimes it's good to lose early in fantasy football because then you get that waiver
Get the
wire
waiver
action
picks up.
early.
yeah, if I
Maybe
keep
the
my head
waiver
above
pickups.
water and if Cup comes back, the Rams look like they might be competitive. Like,
They're pumping Puka Nakua.
Puka Nakua.
He's definitely no Pupa.
yeah.
Puka. He's a stud, no doubt. All right. That's a good answer. Favorite meal to eat? Like post weigh-ins or
Like
like
a cheat meal.
Cheat
or
meal, yeah.
like-
I mean, I love steak. Favorite meal stuff? Probably steak. I mean,
Yeah.
chicken parm and wings are probably second,
Oh,
third.
I love chicken.
I like to cook, so I do a lot of cooking around the house.
What's your best dish?
Made short ribs a couple weeks ago. Those were pretty good.
Ooh.
Making a
Braised?
steak-
You braise them?
Yeah, yeah.
I said
man.
you praise them.
Steak sandwich I did the
Yeah.
other day. I grill a lot. I'm not like I'll make some sauces. Like I like to cook
Yeah.
a lot of meats and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, probably steak. I mean, if I had to pick one meal, it'd be steak.
I love that. All right. So how did I do tonight?
It was good. Yeah, Donnie cooked us some steaks. It was awesome.
Good. That's all I needed to hear. All right. Toughest opponent on the mat.
High school or college?
All
Both.
around. Youth, high school, college.
Give me a high school and then a college.
Oh,
toughest
that's fair.
opponent.
So high school,
Don't do what you did to Mac, Marky. You ran down every single one of his losses. My
I
man
know
was-
that was kind of messed up. He had some really big losses though. in
Yes,
college.
but you ran.
I know. I didn't name a single win of his. I felt not so great after it.
So we did find out Mark Ray was one of his wins. We did.
win.
That was nice.
the younger one.
No,
Oh, he beat the older
He
Gray.
beat the
I mean,
Cornell coach.
the Cornell guy.
Not his brother.
We got a brother.
He has a
Mark?
brother that was really good that had concussion issues. That's Mark. Mike's the older one, I think.
Maybe it was Mike Gray.
Oh, maybe it was.
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know if it'd be.
He beat
Mike.
one of the greats.
The-
Both of them
the
were
age
nice,
is-
right? Both
yeah,
of them were
Mark
real
was
nice.
like the younger one was like the stud coming out of high school, but he was like
Blair kid, right?
real concussed. Yeah. High school was Chance Litton. He's
Okay.
from Parkersburg. He second round of the Powerade. He ended up winning the Powerade, won senior nationals. But I was a freshman. He was a senior. I'm wrestling him, and this is when Parkersburg was really tough, and they have like their sixth coach in the corner, and he's wrestling some like freshman with long hair. And
They have so many coaches.
I take him down, blast double him out of bounds, and before we get back to the center, I turn around, there's like 8 coaches in the corner, like, Chance, what are you doing? Like, wake up! Like, they're like, this is a real match. And he got up, and just beat the hell out of me, and we dueled them 2 months later. He just, physicality, I was a freshman, you could just feel it. Like, this dude was just throwing me around like a rag doll.
Like a grown man
Yeah,
type
he
stuff.
just beat me up bad. And then in college, probably Steve Bozak, he was an
Okay.
NCAA champ at Cornell.
Yep.
He beat me. He pinned me twice, I think. Just grabbed me and just thumped me. And just I remember him grabbing it like, this dude's so much stronger than me. Like, I think I'm in trouble.
And coming from you, like one of the strongest people that like, whew,
You
It's
wrestled
different.
a Marky.
pound for pound. Yeah.
Nah, this
Corey
kid-
will keep it strong. Rob's stronger.
Yeah,
Rob
this kid,
stronger than
yeah,
Corey.
Bozak,
My
I mean, he's a
gosh.
national champ. He was a beast. And he's a cool dude too. I mean, he grew up with him, but he's tough.
Love that.
Who's your toughest practice partner?
Yeah, toughest practice partner. You've had a lot. I mean, we went through. You went to Angry Fish. You've been to Rob
You wrestled
Waller's
with Kill.
camp. I mean, you've been all
I
around.
mean, Jared King, I wrestled him a little bit,
Jay King.
like probably when he needed a
Early
break,
guy.
and it just like, I feel like I probably shot him. I was like, my whole body went numb. Like a brick wall. He was an animal. I wrestled with Herbert, but he would just kind of roll around. He didn't
Right.
play around with you a little bit more. But the times I wrestled King were really bad. This kid named Travis Unkefer, if you remember him?
Yeah, Travis Hunkerford. Yeah.
He, when we were kids, yeah, he was like a grown man and was just like, he was so strong and aggressive. Like, he'd try to hurt you in practice. I don't think he actually would, but he'd just be real physical. Like, crossfaces were
He was
nasty.
a real tough guy.
Yeah, my friend Curtis Branchen beat him in high school a couple times.
Branchen was good, too.
Yeah, and this is like, it was kind of cool because Uncle Freeze just thumb us and he caught up to him. And like, there's Curtis, he's just too stubborn. He's like, I'm not going to get worried about crossface.
Right.
I'll eat that all day. But
It's just my nose.
we're like little kids. Like, Uncle Fern was like a real prick to wrestle at Waller
Yeah.
in camp.
All right, next question. You're a dad. You got a daughter. I have a daughter. I have a son. If she gets older and you think she's into wrestling, is that something that you'll encourage her to do?
I will, but I headgear. I don't know if I want a little girl with busted up ears running around.
That's fair. Definitely
Okay,
fair.
that's across the bear. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if she's older and doesn't like that, like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna be headgear on at all times. Or
Rock a tornado. I think those old school ones
Yeah.
keep people.
Tornadoes are no joke. Yeah, those
Tornadoes will keep your ears clean, man. Not
Yeah.
those the Cliff Clean that everyone
the
wears.
pads. Yeah.
Yeah, but she wants to. I'm cool with it, but I don't want her
Have mushed up
deforming her
ears.
body if she can
That's a
avoid it.
that's a good thought.
You're right. Your left ear looks alright.
Yeah, it's not
You
too
avoided
bad.
it. That
Yeah,
one, the
a
right
little
ear's
bit.
the right ear's a
That's
little
terrible.
bang.
But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just like, well, if she's 16 and doesn't want to wrestle anymore, and she's got goofy ears.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
that.
she wants to do it.
That's thoughtful.
Yeah, I didn't even honestly.
Something that I wouldn't have thought. Yeah.
Hell no. I wouldn't even
Someone
have
else
thought
brought that up to me like a year ago. I can't remember who.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing.
that. All right. So you talk to your favorite sport is football. Is that your favorite sport to play? That's not wrestling. or do?
I mean, growing up for sure. Besides wrestling, I actually watch everything. I played everything growing up. Like we play outside a lot, but I mean, I really like football.
You do any sports now but wrestling?
No.
How's your golf game?
Terrible. I get out there
man.
a couple times a year. I mean, I've golfed less than 10 times in my life.
Right.
It's
Just get out there to get out there.
Go on outings with friends you haven't seen in a while. And
Right.
I'll skip shots to like not slow everyone down, but I'll get a few good shots here and there. If we play scramble, if we play 5 or 6 of my shots, I'm
Right, like when the Gavazzi outing, I saw you out there playing.
Yeah, it was actually the Bonnies and the Blascos they were getting ready to watch me tee off on a par 3, and I just had like 3 terrible drives. And you ask them, like, I bust balls pretty good on the kids.
Right.
And I'm like, if I shank this, they're gonna give me a ton of crap. I hit it. I must have been like 3 feet from the pin.
Let's go.
I practiced. You still golf a lot, coach? Best shot I ever had in my life. I was like, thank God, right in front of this.
Right in front of them. They'll never forget it.
Yeah.
They think you're a stud. I love it. All right. Next question. I asked this to everyone. Favorite near fall or pin you've ever been a part of?
Fan, coach, competitor, whatever you think.
Yeah, whatever you think.
Folk style? Has to be folk style? Or?
Yeah, I mean,
You're wrestling, man.
Yeah.
Near Falls with D Hall is the name of the show. You know?
I was,
Just don't make it a WWF match.
yeah, when I was at Fargo, I remember I could still feel in the semis, I turned a kid from New Jersey I'd never beat before and just hit a gut wrench. I could feel him going over. Like, I could still basically taste that feeling of like 18 seconds left to win. I'm like, this match is over, and I held him there. That's probably it if I had to pick one.
I love that. Sick. That's a good one. All right. Marky, anything else?
Oh, man. Rob, anyone you want to shout out?
Anyone you want to shout out?
Man, the floor is yours. Thank you for being
No,
here.
I mean, you guys mentioned a lot of guys that I grew up with, right? Ray, Ty, Jamie, like the whole NA family is awesome. Shout out Quest. I've been coaching there the last 3 years. I got a lot of respect for Jim and just the program in general. I feel fortunate to be around a lot of those kids and those families. They work hard, they take the sport serious, and we're running a couple days up at NA, and it went really well last year. We'd like to build it up even more and get the north part of the city and to a serious club and build that up, because I think it slipped a little bit maybe from where it was when I was a kid. I'd like to hope them get back to where they were, but besides that, it's a lot of fun. Glad you guys had me on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for being patient with us and enjoying the night. And thanks for talking about your story, man. It's you're one of the guys, especially whenever I started doing this, I'm like, man, I love that college podcast. It was one of the things that, I'm just pumped to have you on and just talk about your story.
Cool, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Thank you guys so much for listening to this edition of Near Falls with D Hall, episode 70, brought to you always by Switch Custom Apparel.